What's up, guys? It's Nina from Karma Marketing, this time with a new month and a new theme, and that is professional alignment. So, we've been putting out content specifically for career planning, networking, resume, and also portfolio building, just because we feel like this will help a lot of marketers. And for this specific content feature, we have someone that we look up very much so from Malaysia and is also an agency owner, and I'll have him introduce himself much later. But for now, we just want to discuss the topic which we feel a lot of marketers struggle with, and maybe even business owners. And that's how to build a strong agency portfolio for the B2B network. And by B2B network, we mean business to business network. So we'll officially start by having Daniel introduce himself.
Thank you so much, Nina. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Woodroof. I am the co-founder and CEO of a digital marketing agency here in Malaysia called Pandan Social. So we're a 360 fully integrated digital marketing agency, and we do most things under the digital marketing umbrella. But more often than not for our clients, that usually means something along the lines of social media management, consultations, as well as digital advertising.
So for the first question of this topic is, how do you identify a good portfolio for your B2B clients?
Yes, that's a really good question, because your portfolio is the main thing that you rely on in your wheelhouse, right? When trying to convert a client in that sales process. So making sure that foundational document is on check is super, super important. It showcases what you can do, how you've done it in the past, and all those kind of successful case studies, and it explains who you are as a team and why you stand out amongst all the other competitors. Because the reality is your client's probably looking at other agencies and freelancers as well to make a decision with who they go with. So this can really be that make or break document in that sales process. I wish that I had this kind of really well thought out process that I went through at the start of my agency to be like, yeah, I pondered for 2 weeks about, how to make a really, really successful portfolio, and, came up with a roadmap of how I'm gonna, check my way through it so that it's perfect. The reality is the only way we created a portfolio that my agency uses now and it uses it very successfully is through mistakes, right? It is through actually pitching with a document that was probably quite awful at the beginning and resulted in the clients asking a lot of questions, being like, but can you do this? To now, having the client look at it and present it in a meeting and then being like, wow, okay, you guys can do a lot and you're actually very good at what you do. So how would I identify a good portfolio? It's when the clients don't ask any more questions after the meeting. I mean, they can ask questions, but all those really big hitter questions that leave you kind of scratching your head and being like, can I get back to you in a few days, with a mock-up for that to kind of make you feel better about us as an agency or freelancers. Once those questions are out of the way, that it's pretty solid, right? So it has to showcase everything you've done in the past. It has to showcase numbers and statistics and case studies. I mean, case studies are good where you're talking about clients and you're showing visuals and stuff like that. But I find that particularly with B2B clients, they're a lot more anal with numbers, right? They have more bureaucracy, more management to kind of get through to unlock their marketing budgets. It's not like a B2C client where it's like, hi, I'm an SME owner and I've decided to put a couple $1,000s per month into this, marketing campaign that I want to do. It's someone's part of a 1,000, 2,000 person organization. They're in the marketing department. They answer to finance and the seniors. And the only way they can unlock the budget for this year or for next year is to hit KPIs. And how are they going to, believe that you're going to help them hit KPIs? It's by showing that you've hit other people's KPIs, right? So it's very, very data driven. And I know for a lot of marketers that maybe err more on the creative side, that's very, very difficult. But I think that's one thing you really have to sit down and think about. What numbers and data can I extract from my past performance, even if it was just a creative campaign that you've done and you were purely involved in the creative aspect? There are always numbers and data that you can pull. I mean, social media is perfect, or just digital marketing in general when it comes to this, because everything is measured, everything is tracked, whether or not you want it to be tracked. You've got engagement metrics, you've got reach metrics, impressions,
Conversion rates,
comment
yeah, a
likes,
lot.
all that kind of stuff. Exactly, conversion rates. So you have the data there. It's just a case of actually finding the time to go back and be like, okay, I did this creative campaign, I executed on this artwork, we posted it, we did the reels, we did all this kind of stuff, or I helped create ads for their digital marketing campaign. The onus is on you now to actually go back and sift through the data, which I know creatives hate, right? Because it's like you feel like an accountant. You're going through all these numbers and you're like, oh my God, like month on month data. What's the, like, how do I put that green arrow in my portfolio to show that I have like 50% more conversions over this amount of time? It's painful, but the minute you do it, it just makes your portfolio that much stronger. And a lot of clients just want to see that you've gone through that effort to actually compile that data and that you've actually thought about it in that way, right? So data is huge. But again, how do I identify a good portfolio? It's when the client stops asking those really, really big questions and they actually start to compliment you, right? They start to go, wow, your services are really comprehensive. You're actually very good at what you can do. And then it's just a conversation about pricing, which is every marketer's favorite discussion. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say when they stop asking questions, but it's good. So even if you're starting out and you don't know what to add to your portfolio, just go into meetings. Start pitching to people. Don't even pitch to actual clients. Pitch to other business owners that you don't even care about pitching to, but just get their perspective anyway, because you have to put yourself in their shoes. I think a lot of the time marketers and agency owners will just think about it from their perspective. And I'm guilty of that, right? You get into that black hole of like, no, I'm literally the best marketer with the best creatives. I got the best graphic designers. I got the best, media buy marketers. The client, every agency says that. So you got to get out of that mindset and be like, okay, if I'm the one investing $5,000-$10,000 of my own money that I worked for, what are the questions and criteria that have to be fulfilled in order for me to go with this agency? So yeah, you got to take a bit of time to yourself, work out what those questions are if they're industry specific, and then make sure that your portfolio answers it.
Yeah, I love how you bring out the fact that you should have data in it specifically for B2B clients, because honestly, that is one of the most common things that B2B clients usually ask for. And I think it's another expectation for B2C when you're trying to put out their product in the best way possible. But when you're thinking about B2B, there's also another added layer of having to think about, what results can you actually provide for them for the bigger picture of their company. So I love that factor to it. And since you mentioned too, like, good sign is having a client not ask any questions, but then, you go about having to prepare those certain questions to be already answered in the portfolio. Are there any other good signs for a good and strong portfolio aside from, the clients not asking questions, or even for bad signs? Like, what's a deal breaker in a portfolio where, you would be like, no, this is not the one for me?
Yeah, I would say another good sign is if you have industry specific data or case studies and experiences, right? So looking back at the clients that we've had at Pandan Social, I feel like whenever we approach B2C clients, they're okay with a portfolio that showcases a variety of industries that you've worked on, right? So let's say we are pitching to a restaurant, for example. If we show them a portfolio that includes engineering companies and gyms and other lifestyle things that aren't directly related to the F&B industry, a lot of the time, I'm not saying all the time, a lot of the time, more often than not, they'll be okay with it. But what I find when you get to B2B clients, they really want to see other clients in your portfolio from that same industry. So with us at Pandan Social, when we pitch to insurance companies, we're talking about what we can do, our creative concepts, and they're like, yeah, this is good. And then we go, and we've also worked with 3 other insurance companies. And then there's that sigh of relief. We've worked with, shopping malls in the past, which are part of very big kind of real estate conglomerates, right? So a lot of red tape as well. The minute we say we worked with other shopping malls, there's that sense of relief, right? So particularly when you get into really technical industries, like we've worked with a few pharmaceutical companies, right? So in the healthcare umbrella, pitch creative concepts exactly as I've said, and they're like, we really, really like it. And then I go, oh, we've actually worked with XYZ pharma companies in the past. And then they're literally like, oh, wow. Okay, great. Yeah, let's. So you guys know about the regulations about saying this, and why, because these industries are so regulated by government. They want to know that you have the expertise to actually navigate creative concepts and deliverables around that red tape. Because if a pharmaceutical company or an insurance company says something wrong in a digital marketing campaign, they're going to be screwed, right? So yeah, I would say a really, really good B2B portfolio really segments the case studies by industry as well.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, putting out all of these important information of what a portfolio should have, would you have any insights to what a portfolio should not have?
I think if it's lacking in any of those things that I've just mentioned, that's honestly a pretty big deal breaker. I mean, look, I think, as I said, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the client, right? And I know that's very nuanced between a lot of different industries, but across the board, they're going to be asking the same questions. Who are you guys? What are your experiences? Why are you good at what you do? What have you worked on in the past? Do you have experience in their industry? And if so, show us the case studies, show us the numbers, show us the creativity. If you're not going to be doing mock-ups for them as a part of the pitching process, they want to see how creative you can be across the board, whether it's following really regimented and strict industry regulations, so working within a box, or campaigns where you're allowed to actually be really, really free and be like, look, we got given this creative brief, and we did all of this outside of as well. So being able to show that you can be both regimented and extremely creative, I think if you have that at the very least as a starting point, you'll be pretty good to go. And then from there, every agency is different. Every region is different depending on where these listeners are currently living. Once you have that structure in place, just keep pitching, whether or not it's to clients or to friends and other business owners, and then just keep making tweaks. And then after your first year, I promise you're going to look back at that first deck that you did and be like, wow, I'm amazed I got this far off of that. What I have now is pretty damn awesome.
Honestly, I personally resonate within that journey. And I think it goes to like the next question, which I pretty much think you've covered everything about, which is, what have you personally done to make sure your portfolio was good enough to show to your B2B clients? And I think we can just revisit that part of your life where, you didn't really have as much clients, you didn't have as much B2B network in general. So you would just have to start off with pitching off with other agencies and stuff. So can you just share some more insights to how you officially started that, or any mistakes that you learned along the way, struggles, or maybe even little wins?
Yeah, so I would say I know a lot of people are going to hate this, but doing free work, to kind of structure a deal where you say, look, I'll do a month's worth of free work, or I'll come up with a couple of campaign deliverables for you just to show that we are competent. That does help, but I feel like that is a more effective route for B2C clients, right? Your issue with B2B clients a lot of the time is because you're dealing with much larger businesses on average than B2C customers. Again, I'm thinking of like that B2C being like an SME type business as opposed to big B2B conglomerates. They tend to go with agencies that are a lot more established, right? Whether or not your capabilities are the same as a bigger agency that's been around for 20 to 30 years and has 10 times the amount of staff that you do, they will still tend to gravitate towards them, ironically, because of that agency's portfolio.
Yeah.
Right? What we've learned through actual implementation is actually finding these bigger agencies, not just in the country you reside in, but in the region, and to say, hey, why don't you partner up with us? I have a team of copywriters, graphic designers, etc., or I have this kind of capability. If you have any resource constraints, and the reality is, this is going to be going out to marketers, so they're going to know there's always a lot of resource restraints in even big agencies. Yeah. Sometimes they'll want to outsource the work to you. And in that scenario, you rely on the big agency to get their foot in the door and to win the contract with a big B2B client. Mm-hmm. They outsource part of the work to you, and that is your first win to actually get a big B2B client on your portfolio, even though it's technically yours, right? It just got outsourced to you. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? You've done the work.
You got it, yeah.
So I would say do that. If you do get the opportunity to get your foot in the door, whether it's through networking effectively in person, a referral, or networking really, really well on LinkedIn, and those are 3 areas that all marketers and agency owners should really focus on. It is doing that free work. So with a lot of the pitches that we did, particularly at the beginning, just to get the attention, we didn't want to just send our portfolio and be like, hey, if you have any campaigns or you want us to do your social media or digital marketing, look at what we can do. Here's my generic proposal, right? Here's my generic portfolio. What we did was we isolated, 5 to 10 brands that we were like, man, if I secure this client, I'm going to be really happy because they're big. I'm passionate about them. I know a lot about them. We just created campaign mockups. We were like, I have no idea what the brief is. I don't have your branding guidelines, so I don't actually know what the real red tape is. But I'm going to come up with that social media content anyway. I'm going to come up with those creative writing deliverables, those blog articles. I'm going to do a big campaign idea. I'm going to structure an advertising campaign. I'm going to give you the plan. I'm going to give you the timeline. And then send that over to someone on LinkedIn, in the marketing department. And then you just do that for about 2 weeks. And then you keep following up. And, a lot of the time you're going to be rejected, but eventually it's going to work because there are so many generic proposals being sent out. Right.
Yeah, that's very true. And I like that because it's honestly, a lot of people don't realize that it takes a lot more initiative, and also it just shows just the bigger footstep of people when it comes to strategizing is that you already have something in mind. So that's like an additional plus point to the B2B client because it's not generic. You've actually carefully thought out and curated what kind of strategy you would have in mind if you were to work with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So this is the last question, Daniel, and this is for our community. What is the most important advice that you can give to those trying to build their B2B agency portfolio?
I feel like no matter what I say, it's going to come across as really cheesy, but I think I think the biggest thing is to just be resilient and to stand your ground, right? So you're going to be facing rejection, and at the beginning you're going to be facing loads and loads of rejection, but don't give up, because the reality is there are so many potential clients out there. Just saying it as it is, right? You can get so worked up and in that kind of rabbit hole working on 3 to 4 pitches that you're really, really passionate about. And look, if they wipe the floor with you, then that's fine. Just take the learnings from it. Ask them why they rejected you. Rework your portfolio. Exactly as I said, take those learnings, build on it, make that foundational deck even better, even stronger, and then pitch to the next one, and then pitch to the next one. And eventually you're going to get your lucky break, right? So it's all about resilience. I know it's really, really tough in this industry, particularly with creatives and marketers, but you just got to stick it out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice. And especially like one of the key takeaways I got is time and experience. Like, honestly, you can't get a portfolio overnight. And I just love how you really emphasize that personal and also just professional journey of how you've gone through everything, and being resilient is the key to it, because you're not going to get your portfolio instantly. Like, you genuinely build it, and it's going to be a consistent progress as you go through it. So
yep, exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much for getting on with me and discussing these different things, Daniel. Honestly, I learned a lot. And for anyone who's listening right now, I hope you've learned a lot as well. Tune in to our next content feature. But for now, spread the love, spread the kindness, Karma Marketing.